fit place.
I think even the cat is not
Du kannst das Tischlein wegnehmen. Genau. Danke.
doesn't sound fancy.
Yamuna
Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So we're reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 23, with the title of Life's Ultimate Goal. So this is a chapter which is very important. And I don't know if there must be some translation, I guess. Someone's translating for devotees who don't understand English. Portuguese. Yes?
No. Translation?
Tamil.
Tamil.
So, is there anyone who will be volunteering to translate for?
There's no translator.
There's no translator. Never mind. Nobody. You can understand intuitively. Okay.
She stayed in the boat.
So, this chapter is very interesting because it is a discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Sanatana Goswami. It's a very nice chapter. তবে সনাতন প্রভুর চরণে ধরিয়া নিবেদনা করে দন্তে তৃণগোচ্ছলয়. Sanatana Goswami then humbly accepted his position as lower than a piece of straw, and symbolically holding some straw in his mouth, he fell down, clasped the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and submitted the following petition. Nija joti nija sevi muni suparama, Shidhanta shikhai vajai brahmara avuchara. Sanatana Goswami said, My dear Lord, I am very low-born. Indeed, I am a servant of low-born people, and therefore I am very, very downtrodden. Nonetheless, you have taught me conclusions unknown even to Lord Brahma. Tumi che koi hilaye Shidhantamrita sindhu muramana chunite nore ihara eka bindu. The conclusions that you have told me are the ocean of ambrosia of truth. My mind is unable to approach even a drop of that ocean. Panguna chaite jadi hoy tomar mana boradeva moramate dariya charana. If you want to make a lame man like me dance, kindly bestow your transcendental blessings by placing your lotus feet on my head. Muni jai shikalun ture puruka sakala etumara bara haite abhimura bara. Now will you please tell me, let whatever I have instructed all be fully manifested unto you. By blessing me in this way, you will give me strength to describe all this. Tobe Mahaprabhu tumra shire dhori kore Varadilai Savastulika Kumare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then placed his hand on Sanatana Goswami's head and blessed him, saying, "Let all these instructions be manifested to you." Sankshipe kahilun prem prayojan samvad vistari kahanayai prabhura prasad. Thus, I have briefly described a discussion of the ultimate goal of life, love of Godhead. The mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cannot be described expansively. Prabhura upadeshamrita shunajejan achirat milayetanre Krishna premadham. Whoever hears these instructions given to Sanatana Goswami by the Lord comes very soon to realize love of God, Krishna. Shri Rupa Raghunath Pade Jare Ash Chaitanya Charitamrita Ohe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate this Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, 23rd chapter, describing the love of God. And this chapter has 127 verses. So, just that we understand a little bit more of this chapter, I will, with your permission, read the summary of the 23rd chapter given by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya. In this chapter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes the symptoms of emotion and love and the awakening of one's original loving relationship with the Lord, as well as the characteristics of a devotee who has actually attained that stage. He then describes the gradual increase of love of God up to the point of Mahabhava. He then describes the 5 divisions of attraction and how they continue. He also describes the mellow derived from conjugal love, which is the supreme emotion. Conjugal love is divided into categories, Svakya and Parakya. Svakya refers to loving affairs between husband and wife, and Parakya refers to loving affairs between 2 lovers. There are a number of descriptions in this connection. There is also a description of the 64 transcendental qualities of Krishna and the 25 transcendental qualities of Srimati Radharani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then describes those candidates who are eligible to taste the mellows of devotional service. Their fundamental nature and their varieties are also described. The Lord also informs Sanatana Goswami about all the confidential paraphernalia of devotional service. He gives a description of Goloka Vrindavan, where the Lord is engaged in his eternal pastimes, described in the Hari Vamsa. There is also an opposing description and a favorable description of Kesha Avatar. All these instructions are mentioned herein. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed Sanatana Goswami, placing his hand on his head. Thus, Sanatana received the power to describe these subjects in his books like Hari Bhakti Vilas. So maybe I can read somewhere. There is a purport. So I will, if you kindly allow, read a verse which Lord Chaitanya quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam in the middle of these descriptions of a very high character of devotional service. Chirani kimpati nasanti dishanti viksham naivangri pachpara britach saritopya shushyam rudhaguha kimaditorati nopasanam kasmad bhajanti kavayodhana turmadandam. Or there no torn cloth lying on the common road, Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? Do the rivers, being dried up, no longer supply water to the thirsty? Or the caves of the mountains now closed? Or, above all, does the unconquerable Supreme Personality of Godhead not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then should learned persons like devotees go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 2nd chapter, verse 5. In this verse, Shukadev Goswami advises Maharaj Parikshit that a devotee should be independent in all circumstances. The body can be maintained with no problem if one follows the instructions given in this verse. To maintain the body, we require shelter, food, water, and clothing, and all these necessities can be obtained without approaching puffed up rich men. One can collect old garments that have been thrown out. One can eat fruits offered by the trees. One can drink water from the rivers, and one can live within the caves of mountains. By nature's arrangements, shelter, clothing, and food are supplied to the devotee who is completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee does not need a puffed up materialistic person to maintain him. In other words, devotional service can be discharged in any condition. This is the version of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, verse 6. Savai pungsham paro dharmo yato bhakti radokshate ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the Transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. This verse explains that devotional service cannot be checked by any material condition. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu attracted Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami so much that Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami gave their very high position, gave up their position as ministers of the Lava Hussain Shah. And they were very wealthy people. They weren't beggars. They weren't desperate people who are in need. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that there are 4 kinds of people approaching Krishna. Artha, Arthati, Jigyasu, and Jnana. Meaning that people who are in need, in necessity, they're desperate, they're unhappy, they usually take resort to God. God help me. That's what happens usually when people are very, very desperate. Only God can help us. Just like it is, Prabhupada states that also, that when the astronauts were in dire straits and they couldn't come back from their journey to the moon, somehow they had a problem with their vessel, with their space ship, and everybody was in anxiety in Houston at the controlling tower, what will happen. So at the end, the director of the flight asked everyone in the world to please pray to God that our astronauts can come back to Earth. And usually we have this, I would say, tendency, all of us, to resort to pray to God when it's really like when we are very desperate. People usually also state like, oh my God, in a certain situation which is very desperate. Oh my God, I don't know how you say in Ukrainian when you are really distressed. Can you ask this gentleman? Hey.
He doesn't understand anything.
Kako se kaže Bog pomoć? Yeah? Huh?
Господь.
Gospod pomoć. Help.
Помоги.
Pomogi.
Помогите.
Gospod pomogi. Oh.
Кришна, помоги.
Krishna pomogi. Yeah? So this is a natural tendency for every living entity in this human form of life. I mean, a dog won't, in a problem, it has a problem, a dog won't say, whoa, whoa, whoa. It will just say, bark. Huh? Animals don't have this tendency. Only human beings have this tendency. And it doesn't matter if you're black, white, whatever, A human being, by nature, that's the nature of a human being. He knows that there's some superior power. Even if he's a primitive Aboriginal living somewhere in Papua New Guinea, he has the tendency to approach some higher authority, to invoke the mercy or the power which is above him. Yeah? Because there is power above us, no doubt. For example, now it is raining outside, and the rain is causing trouble to many people. Right now, some people are in a house which is being flooded by water, right? Just right now. Right? At this moment, there's some distress which is imposed upon us from above, Daivi, from the elements, from nature, whatever. But the human beings, they have this understanding that there is a higher authority above us. And either they accept it and adapt to the higher authority, or what they do in our scientific age, they challenge this higher authority by inventing all kind of means and ways of protecting ourselves from the higher authority, from the nature and the elements which are out there and threatening us at any moment. So the nature of a human being is to somehow or other acknowledge, at least acknowledge a higher authority than us. And either we surrender to that higher authority, and try to understand this higher authority, ultimately accepting the higher authority of God and surrendering to God and serving God with love and devotion, as is stated here, Savaitum Sham Parodharmo Yato Bhakti Radokshade Ahaitu Ki Apratihata Yayatma Suprasidati. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity, not for the animals, stated here. Dharma is for human beings. It's not for animals. There's no problem. The animals don't need dharma. But the human beings, they need dharma. And here it is stated the supreme occupation, the highest occupation, is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. So, in this discussion between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami, the question is of the supreme life's ultimate goal. And this verse says that the supreme occupation for all humanity is loving devotional service. And here, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains the highest levels of devotional service, which are attained by the pure devotees. And he explains very confidential matters here to Sanatana Goswami. So, this whole Krishna consciousness movement is meant for understanding devotional service, understanding, practicing devotional service. In other words, the way how to attain the Supreme and loving the Supreme, not to challenge the Supreme, not to develop and invent means how to overcome the power of the Supreme. Yeah? Also in this verse it is stated that do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water to the thirsty? Or the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the unconquerable, and it's interesting, this word is here, that Krishna, he is unconquerable, Ajita. Ajita, that's the name of Krishna. So, the modern world means that Krishna is Ajita, but we will conquer him. We will conquer the problems of the world. And it's interesting because we have so much accepted this, I would say, attitude that it seems to us as completely normal, whereas it's not normal to think that, we can just live in caves and dress ourselves in some rags and just eat food from this seems to us unnatural almost, isn't it? Yeah. Most of the time when we see a person in the street, in the city basically, who is in this situation that he needs rags, that he lives in the street, we think this is a poor guy. Yeah? This is a sign of poverty to live like this in the city. And it's, on the contrary, it's a sign of success when you can drive around in a fancy automobile, or when you have a nice villa here in Bergstrasse, We find this is normal, this is to be strived for, right? This is what we have to attain. Material success and happiness in this material world. Yeah, we have developed complete faith in this way of life, and we reject, in our modern world, we reject this ideology, this thought that we can be happy just simply living in caves and wearing rags and eating fruit from the trees and drinking water from the river. We think what is this nonsense? Why do these people even read about these things? You should go and study mathematics and physics and computer sciences and become successful in this world. Become a banker, for example. Yeah? Become a lawyer and make a lot of money. This seems to us everywhere, not only in Switzerland, all around the world. This seems the normal way of life, the right way of life, the right path. Not to surrender to God, but to challenge God. We will show you, we will be successful. We will surmount the power of the Supreme Lord. But then things start collapsing, unfortunately. Like, it's interesting, in California, they had huge forest fires some years ago. And these forest fires, they raged in the most beautiful regions of California, where the multimillionaires and the lawyers and the bankers, they have their beautiful villas. Yeah? And there is a village there which is called, a small township, which is called Paradise. Right? And the fire came and burned down Paradise. And Paradise became hell within a few hours. That's the power of the Supreme Deity, of the Supreme Authority. But at that point, I can imagine that the people who were living in Paradise, in California, it's down California Paradise, with their beautiful villas and their 3 cars in the garage, they have these beautiful automobiles. I guess the wife mainly, when she saw all this devastation, she exclaimed, "Oh God!" Isn't it? Definitely. She definitely said, "Oh God, what's going on now? My car, my house, everything is lost." Right? So we have this human nature is that we do acknowledge God, even if we don't believe in God. Yeah? For example, there is a story about Lenin, who was an atheist, who didn't believe in God. For sure not, right? Unfortunately, he became very sick at the end of his life, and he became mad. He lost his reason. He was completely disoriented. He didn't know what to do. And it stated that the people who were around him saw him kneeling in front of the chair and begging the chair to help him. Yeah. He was so desperate. Yeah. He had this human nature, because we're all human, I mean, you can be a human atheist, or you can be a human devotee, but you're always a human. You can't change it. Yeah. Even the biggest demons, at a certain point, they're so desperate that they need some supreme authority or shelter, helper, to help them. Yeah. So it's the nature of the human being to ask for help in a situation which is unsolvable. Of course, we try everything in our power to protect ourselves by building infrastructures, by protecting us from all kinds of dangers through technology. We're trying to find security. But that's condemned in the Bhagavatam. Deha patya kalatradishu atma sanyeshu asatsapi tesham pramatanidanam pashyanapi na pashyati. Stated there right in the Bhagavatam in this first canto. Deha patya kalatradishu. We think that our body, deha patya, kalatra means wife, deha patya kalatradishu, atma sanyeshu. We are thinking that these are our protectors. Atma sanyeshu, asat swapi. Asat means temporary. Atma sanyeshu asat. Tesham pramatta nidanam. It is stated that people who seek shelter in family, insurance, you have an insurance, I hope, health insurance and home insurance, and all kind of other systems to protect us. Tesham pramatta nidanam. These people are actually mad. Isn't it crazy, this whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness? We call people who take shelter of the wife, of the society, of insurance companies. Insurance is a very important thing. Health insurance, wealth insurance, home insurance, car insurance. Yeah, there's so many insurances. What is this Krishna consciousness? What is this nonsense? They're preaching that these people who take shelter of these insurances, that they're pramatta, that they're crazy. No. People will think, these people do think that this Krishna consciousness movement, they're just some kind of weird people, who are rejecting all these so important things. Tesham pramatta nidanam, and they call us who are taking shelter of it as crazy. That's why Prabhupada wrote this little pamphlet in the 1966. Who is crazy? Who is crazy? Yeah. Definitely people think that the Hare Krishnas are crazy. Mainly when they see us chanting Hare Krishna on the streets in our robes, with some kind of paint on our forehead, they think that we are crazy. But the Bhagavatam says, Desham pramatanidanam pasyanapi na pashyati, because they do not see their ultimate destruction. So therefore the Bhagavatam says that people who take shelter in this material world and try to become protected by their family, by their wife, that they don't see that they're crazy. in the previous verse in the Bhagavatam is stated, Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nidam Shanti Sahasrasha Apashyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grihamevinam. People have thousands of things to read. Neue Zürcher Zeitung, the Zürcher Anzeiger, etc., etc. And they can see all the... And nowadays, Shrotavyadini Rajendra, social media, you can stay glued to your iPhone or to your iPad the whole day with Shrotavyadini Rajendra, with hundreds of thousands of information. Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nilan Shanti Sahasrashaha. Sahasrashaha means thousands of informations every day. Apashyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grihamevinam. But they do not see that they're ultimately being destroyed by some superior power. The superior power is there. So anyhow, to go back to the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami, and also in this chapter, in this Madhya Lila, this description of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Rupa Goswami also. These teachings are about the devotional service. Savai Pungsham Paro Dharma, the Paro Dharma, the highest Dharma. Savai Pungsham Paro Dharma. We have so many dharmas, but the highest dharma is Yato Bhakti Adokshare, to serve the Lord with love and devotion. So that's the, as this chapter has the name, life's ultimate goal. Jai Shri Sri Sai Gaura, Jai Shri Jai. So we are learning in this Krishna consciousness movement, we are learning life's ultimate goal. That's the title of this chapter. Life's ultimate goal. Paro Dharma, the highest Dharma. Because everyone has so many occupations in this world. And we are interested in so many information. We are inquisitive about so many things in this world. But ultimately, as I said, we are dominated by supreme nature, by something which is over us, every single one of us. And we're fighting very hard to get free from this domination of others. We build some, as I said previously, we build comfortable homes, we get insurances, we have nice cars, we can fly by airplanes or with boats, but at any moment, this situation can be changed. As I described the situation of the township of Paradise in California, which within a few hours changed into hell, just because of a forest fire. This is the nature of the material existence, that we are constantly threatened by the dangers which are imposed upon us daily by the higher authorities. And therefore, anyone in the dire, as we say in English, in dire straits, when he's really in a situation where there's no other issue, somehow they say, oh God, help me, or something. So that is the nature of a human being. The difference between a human being and an animal is that a human being can cultivate this God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, and ultimately attain the life's ultimate goal, which means full love of God. The nice thing about persons like Srila Prabhupada, who are in love with God, is that they're fearless. That's the nature of someone who is fully in love with God. He's completely fearless. There's absolutely no worries, no anxieties. That's why we read this verse also, which is included in this very highly elevated discussion, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cites the Bhagavatam. I really would once again. Do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water to the thirsty? Or the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the unconquerable Supreme Personality of Godhead not protect to fully surrendered souls. Why then should learned persons like devotees go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? Yesterday when we were on Harinam, we went to visit Prabhupada's Tirtha in Geneva, and I think I was discussing with Krishna Premarupa and Damodar Prasad the fact that we have to somehow, that some devotees are thinking we have to please the public. We have to do things in such a way that somehow or other the public accepts us. Isn't it? Yeah? We have to do things in a way, we have to sing in a way that the people will think, oh, these are nice, this is nice, we like that, you know. Sort of like this is written here, why then should learned persons like devotees go to flatter those? Yeah? We have this tendency to think that the Hare Krishna movement, we have to learn how to flatter the public, to cater to their thoughts and to their needs. This is all due to the fact that we're not fearless. Because we have this fear, what will happen when the karmis won't give us Lakshmi? You know? What will happen when we don't get support from the Indian community? You know, what will happen when the Tamil community of Switzerland will take the money away and won't pay for the temple? We're in this anxiety, you know, we have this feeling, oh, what will happen? But that is exactly what is said in this verse, that we should not be in anxiety. Yeah? And at any situation, a devotee should always be fully surrendered to Krishna and have no anxiety, no fear. That was the beauty of, as I said, that was the beauty of Srila Prabhupada. That he was so fearless, so without any anxieties about what will happen to him or what will happen to his temples or whatever. He was fully aware that Krishna will take care of us. And mainly, he was in love, in true, genuine love with Krishna. Very rare soul. To be in love with God is very rare. That's why when we were also speaking yesterday when we were in Geneva, a personality like Srila Prabhupada, who is in love with God, invokes the same in the people he meets. The people don't know even why. Suddenly they feel that the love of God is something that is very nice, that I should also try to. Yeah? We've discussed yesterday in Geneva that when Prabhupada came to be received by the Lord Mayor of Geneva, yeah, the president of the council of the city of Geneva and the canton of Geneva, that the man addressed Srila Prabhupada, Your Divine Grace. Why should he address Prabhupada as His Divine Grace? You know, because he felt that personality of Srila Prabhupada was so much in love with God that he felt sort of like, wow, this is something which is nice. His personality, personal, I would say, beauty of Srila Prabhupada was mainly this fact that he was in love with God. When he was in 1996, Srila Prabhupada was in New York in the Bowery, yeah, and he lived with some crazy man in a house in the Bowery, on the last floor in the lofts, or actually the last floor underneath the roof. That's called the loft, right? So he lived in the loft. He had just a little separation where he lived. And when he went up the stairs into the house, there were all kind of drunks there, you know, alcoholics, you know, people who have, you know, live in the street. And they very respectfully moved from Srila Prabhupada to let him in, you know, with great respect. Although they were intoxicated and really downtrodden, they still felt when Prabhupada came by with his special dress. Prabhupada was always dressed in his saffron cloth, although he was in New York. He could have also dressed like all the other people in pants and coats and shirt. adapt to the situation. No, but he was totally fearless because he was fully in love with God. Yeah? And therefore he had absolutely no anxiety, no fear. And above all, his whole bodily necessities were reduced to the minimum. He barely slept. He ate very simple things. He didn't search for, sense gratification, for nice, palatable dishes. Right? So that is the nature of a person who is in true love of God, who reached the life's ultimate goal. Right? So we are discussing all these things. We are heading to the life's ultimate goal. That's the nature, or I would say that's the essence of the Krishna consciousness movement, that we're heading to the life's ultimate goal without being critical or envious of people who are living their own way of life. That's very important, that we do not criticize people who are living their own lives, although we know that they are dehapatya kavatara, ishu atmasam, ishu asattvapi, tesham pramatta niranam. We know that they are pramatta. By the Shastras, they explain to us that they are mad, but still we are very respectful to them. We are not envious of them. Oh, look at them, they have such nice automobiles and they have such nice villas and they have so much money in the bank account. We shouldn't be envious of people that they're in this situation. Rather, we should be fixed on our goal. Prabhupada, that was something also was very nice to show Prabhupada, that he was so much fixed on Krishna, so much in love with Krishna, that he didn't judge anyone who came near to him, He didn't judge people. That was a very nice aspect of a pure devotee. He doesn't judge people. He was just fixed on Krishna. And anyone who would come to him, he would be friendly with him. In London, for example, Shyamasundar Prabhu writes in his book, in London, a famous automobile racing driver, Graham Hill, came to visit Prabhupada. And Prabhupada spent, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or even half an hour just discussing issues about car racing. Just, and how do you drive this? He wasn't envious of that person, right? And then, of course, this charm that Prabhupada had by being a pure devotee, by being fixed in Krishna's love of Krishna, made that person very lovable. The same happened with George Harrison. When George Harrison met Srila Prabhupada, he was amazed by the loveliness, this full love that Prabhupada had for Krishna, fixed on Krishna, made anyone who came close to Prabhupada very much feel comfortable, because he wasn't envious. That's very important. Dhira dhira janapriyo priyakaro nirmatsaro pujito. Matsara means envious. And the six Goswamis, if you sing in the Svala Goswami Ashtakam, they were nirmatsara. They were free from enviousness. There was absolutely no enviousness with them. And therefore, everybody loved them. Dhira dhira janapriyo priyakaro. And anyone in Vrindavan who knew that Rupa and Sanatana, they even if they weren't, I would say, some kind of spiritually advanced people, they loved them. The same goes with Srila Prabhupada. Everybody loved him. He was just disarmingly beautiful. That's a good definition. He was disarmingly beautiful. His beauty was in the fact that he was in the ultimate perfection of human life. He was fixed in that ultimate perfection of human existence. So that's what we are in this Krishna consciousness movement. We are striving towards that. And although the people may call us crazy, and although our definition is that they are crazy, who's crazy? Still we have to be very much respectful and courteous and polite to people which we meet or people we go to. For example, at the start, when we're becoming devotees, we go to our parents, and our parents are thinking, oh, this my son, or he's crazy, he's given up his studies, he's given up his position, etc., etc. But we still have to be respectful to the parents and show them that we are striving for the ultimate goal of life. Yeah? Because life is short. At any moment, we can be destroyed by the superior power. We can be in a position where we made so much arrangement that we will be happy in this world, but then, as I've stated, there's this town of paradise which turned into hell within a few hours due to wildfires. Right now, for example, there are villages which are wholly flooded here in Switzerland and Germany. People have their beautiful houses and suddenly the house becomes flooded. Or there was this absolutely horrendous accident which happened, I think, in Papua New Guinea, where a whole mountain just shifted down and took away the homes of people who are Brazilian devotees. You know that in South Brazil, there are 600,000 people which became homeless because of the floods. 600,000. That's almost the population of Zurich. And they, within few months of intensive rains, without any protection, they are lost. So many casualties. Yeah? So the material nature is constantly pushing on us with her power, destroying our hopes and destroying our ambitions to be happy in this world. Yeah? So the Krishna consciousness movement is meant for thoughtful, intelligent men, not only, as I said at the start, people who are in need, arthati, but also for people who are thoughtful, intelligent people, who understand the situation as it is. They're not in illusion about the nature of material existence. For them, this Hare Krishna movement is extremely important because it brings us closer to the ultimate life's goal, which is to love God with the whole heart and with his whole mind and with the whole life. And this Krishna consciousness movement is a very authentic and mainly a rare jewel in the varieties of various kind of teachings in this world which we have. So that's why this Krishna consciousness movement is everywhere in the world, in a very small number. There are not so many devotees anywhere in the world. Yesterday I spoke with Maharaj who preaches in China, and he told me that in China they have 1,000 devotees. It's not much when you think that there are so many people there, but still it's 1,000 devotees. Yeah? And they love Krishna consciousness. Yeah? So it's not a question of numbers or how many are devotees. It's a question of quality. It's not the form is not important. The substance is important. Yeah? So it's something like when we think of our body. And in our body we have so many different kind of elements which keep us alive. But some elements, they're just a small amount, but they're important. They're called vitamins. Yeah? We take in our food, we take so many proteins, hydrates, anyhow, nutrients, right? Carbohydrates, nutrients. These are all very important, and they're in big amount. They're not they're in grams or in kilograms, basically. But there's just a small amount of vitamins within these nutrients, milligrams, right? And if we don't have those milligrams, then we become very quickly ill. Yeah? So the same thing goes about Krishna consciousness. The society needs a small number of people who are striving for the life's goal, our ultimate goal, and that is this Krishna consciousness movement. Yeah? It's important for the society. There's at least few people who are striving for this goal. Even if there are not thousands and thousands of us, we still are important, and there's a need of people who are practicing Krishna consciousness, just like there's a need of vitamins in the body. So we are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada came, that he gave us all these books, where we can study them and learn about the ultimate goal of life and practice devotional service. Savaitum shamparo karmo yato bhakti adokshate ahalpitya pratyahata. It's a very nice verse, this Prabhupada cited it so many times. Ahalpitya pratyahata. We have to serve Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, without a motive, ahalpitya apratyahata, and uninterruptedly. That's something which we are learning day by day in sadhana, which we practice, getting early up in the morning and worshipping the deities and chanting the holy names on our beads, and worshipping the spiritual master. These are all practices, sadhana bhakti, which bring us closer to the ultimate goal of life, which is to be fully in love with Krishna and always remembering Krishna, always serving Krishna. That's something so nice, such a nice movement. So thank you very much. Someone has a question or? Yes?
Hare Krishna.
Oh.
So,
Did you want to ask also something? So here I have the microphone. So.
I was wondering, you mentioned Prabhupada said these astronauts were praying, or the crew like on ground were praying for them, and so they make it back. But also heard several times Prabhupada didn't believe they actually went to the moon. So how does that work together?
Actually, Srila Prabhupada stated that they didn't go to the moon not because he was a fanatic. You know what I mean? He didn't state that they didn't go to the moon because he was a fanatic.
Yeah, okay.
He said that they didn't want to go to the moon because it doesn't correspond to the text which he reads and which he studies.
Yes,
That's
yes.
all. He didn't challenge anyone. He just said, according to our scriptures, they didn't go to the moon. That's all.
Okay, yeah.
But he didn't say that. He said, even if they go, it's okay with us. We have no problem with it. If they went to the moon or didn't go to the moon or go to Mars or not go to Mars, this is not, for us it's not relevant. For us what is relevant is the Shastras. What's in the Shastras? And according to the Shastras, it wasn't feasible for them to go to the moon, according to the Shastras. That's all.
Okay, yeah. I personally don't mind if they went to the moon or not. It's just, I was just confused now. Did they go or did they not go?
Well, as I said, Prabhupada wasn't a fanatic. He was just simply a teacher, a scientist, if I may call it, who was studying the science of the Sanskrit Vedic text, where it is stated in this text that the distance of the moon differs substantially to the distance of the moon which we are calculating according to our modern scientific instruments. You understand?
Yes, and
It's just simple as that. That the scientific information that we have in our books, in the Bhagavatam or in other Shastras, the scientific information which is there in the Shastras differs from the scientific information gained by empiric science. The empiric science means the science of observation and calculation, right, through our senses. Yeah? We have our brains, and we have our observation methods, mathematical methods to calculate distances, etc., etc., etc. So according to these calculations, the distance between the planet Earth and planet Moon is such and such. And according to that, we have sent rockets there, spaceships, where human beings eventually, according to our observations again, have been walking on the moon or something like that. So these are all based on the empiric science, whereas the science of the Shastra, which is a different kind of science, doesn't tally with this observation and empiric ways of gaining knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada was a scientist in this, I would say, category of scientific knowledge, right? So therefore he was just simply saying that according to our knowledge, it doesn't tally, that's all. But he wasn't like, a fanatic saying, oh, you're cheating and conspiration theories and things like that, Prabhupada wasn't a conspiration theorist at all. So anyhow, he was just observing the fact that in the dire straits when we're really desperate, and please pray to God, that's what he sort of like insisted on the fact, I've mentioned that at the start also, that everybody, any human being, not animals, any human being has this tendency to, and really in a situation which is desperate, to pray to God or to invoke some superior power to help him. Yeah? So the scientific methods weren't sufficient to save the astronauts because the technical side of their spaceship was so bad, so that that they just pray to God, because we had no other alternative. Yeah?
Thank you very much.
Is it okay?
Yes, yes.
Now I'm just, it's a very controversial point, this moon travel, but we are not fanatics. We are not interested in, discussing, oh, it's wrong, it's right. But we are just followers of a different kind of science. That's all. But I don't. Prabhupada, when he was interviewed in 1968 by the Los Angeles Times about the moon travel, Prabhupada said, "Are you really interested in this moon travel?" And the reporter said, "Yeah, we were interested." He said, "But we're not really interested." We're really not interested in it. It's a fact. But if they're interested, okay, it's all right. If they won't waste their time and money, no problem. It's a pity, I was thinking the other day, I think it's Elon Musk, yeah? He's building these spaceships, shooting them into the air. One of these spaceships has the price tag of about $150 billion. Yeah, it's very expensive. Mm-hmm. And he shot it into the air, it went up, and that was it. $151 billion. But they're really interested in spending their money like this. How much, and somebody said, well, after all, it's his money. He can do with his money what he wants, If he wants to shoot $150 billion into the air, it's his money. But just think how unreasonable this is. How many people we could feed with $150 billion? How many people in Africa could get water, wells, Foolish.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just thought you mentioned that Srila Prabhupada is not a fanatic, and these days I was reading from the small booklet, the Hare Krishna Challenge, this, where Prabhupada's conversations are compiled, and he speaks very strongly about some points. And after many years listening to Srila Prabhupada, I heard something he said which kind of helped me a lot to understand why he was so strong about the scientists. Often I didn't understand. And Prabhupada, he makes this point that he calls the scientists the rascals, the fools, and then he says because they are wasting the hard-earned money of the public, and like what you just said, we are wasting their money, and they have such huge projects, and he had a problem with that. He could see the connection, how they are doing something which is in turn bad for the human in general. And also with the moon landing, I remember there was some devotees then they read to him some article, and somehow there was about the moon landing, and I think then there was another article where it said, they have to raise the taxes, and then Prabhupada immediately understood the connection. He said, that's what they are doing.
No, it's a fact that Srila Prabhupada was outspoken, which means that he, as we say, called a spade a spade. He would challenge in this connection. He was outspoken, called a spade a spade. But ultimately, he wasn't a fanatic in the sense that he was kind of like concerned with proving that he's right,
Yes.
at any cost. He was just simply calling things as they are. I mean, as I said right now, when Elon Musk sends up a rocket, SpaceX, XXXL, up into the sky, and it costs him $150 billion, it explodes 5 minutes in the air. It is, for us, from our point of view, it's a waste of money. And not only for, but some people will say, well, it's his money.
Yeah, but from where he got this money?
Huh?
From whom he got this money? From us, actually.
Yeah, it's a fact.
Of course.
No, you're right, you're absolutely right. Next time you buy a Tesla car, think twice.
I really like that point you just made, how Srila Prabhupada, he never tried to prove, he just said that's not true, but then he didn't waste his energy and he focused on Krishna consciousness.
Prabhupada was on a higher level of consciousness, and sometimes he preached, but he never came down on the level of the people. He always brought the people up to his level. That's the proper way of preaching. You don't have to go on the level of the people. You have to bring the people to your level. Because the level of the people is they're always quarreling and fighting. Prabhupada gave this beautiful example of the scissors and the knife. You know the story? All the devotees were laughing. He was on a morning walk in Germany. Many times he gave the example that two men were fighting. Was it cut with a knife or with scissors? And the guy said, no, it was cut with a knife. And the other guy said, no, it was cut with the scissors. And the other says, if you don't stop to tell me that it was cut by the scissors, I will throw you into the river. Yeah. And this other guy says, it was scissors. So he took him and threw him into the river. And the guy was floating in the river, and the hand was out and doing like this. So we don't want to be on that level, We don't want to go on the level of fighting with scissors or a knife. We just want to bring them to a higher level. And that was Prabhupada's magic, and his way of preaching also. That he, with whomever he was speaking with, he always tried to get them on the level of higher consciousness, Krishna consciousness. Not to go on the level of polemics and discussions, fanaticism and things like that. We shouldn't get involved in these things. Waste of energy.
And how can we protect ourselves from diverting? Like, I know for myself it happens quite quickly that something comes up, and then how can we protect ourselves?
I must say that it's not easy, And mainly, I think it's a question of experience. That when we're young, we just make so many mistakes. That's the nature of youth and of being a young person. But by experience and by what life teaches us, we sort of like slowly but surely can become a little bit more like, reasonable and not get too much involved. And also I would say important, maybe it's difficult to understand, but I would think that preaching is very important, that we go out and approach people outside of the Hare Krishna movement and try to induce them to take a book or to take some prasadam or just to preach a little bit, because then you are confronted with the reality of the world and you become humble. Yeah. Otherwise, if you just live in your Krishna conscious bubble, then you are always sort of like, I'm right always. Whereas if you're confronting people of a different kind, or you're approaching people from different paths of life, as we say, you learn to sort of like be humble and keep yourself in a situation that you shouldn't be always right. Sometimes it's better to just be quiet and think, okay, it's nice what you said, okay, but just take a book, something like humble. And sometimes people just don't want to listen to you, so they throw it. So it's Prabhupada said everyone should go on Sankirtan. Book distribution is very nice. You approach people here, and sometimes they say we don't want this, and then you just depend on Krishna. I know that lately I'm selling Prabhupada's books again, and sometimes I get situations that I meet for 1 hour always people who are negative, who don't want to buy a book and they're not interested. And at that point, I always think, Krishna, can you send me some normal people? Okay, I've met so many people who are not interested and who have absolutely no idea of Krishna consciousness. They don't want to buy a book. Can you send me somebody normal, and what happens is always miracles like that within the next few people I meet, or even the next people I got, immediately another nice man. So depend on Krishna, that's the secret. Depend on Krishna, always, in our circumstances.
Thank you very much for your wonderful lecture, Prabhu. So we hear all the time that we should actually just render devotional service and surrender to Krishna completely. But many of us, we just jump to this overexcited conclusion that we should leave everything and just do service, and then we realize that, I'm not on the state that I can maintain. So how could we really figure out if we're if we are able to do that, or if we should go other steps, not just jump to the life's goal?
Well, one should accept a spiritual master. For example, if you're a student at the university, you have to accept the professor who tells you, well, this is a little bit too hard for you. Try to do this first. You have to have faith in your teacher. If you have no if you have no teacher at all, that's the worst situation. Yeah. But if you have a teacher, you have to have faith in that teacher, that he is the authority. He will tell me what to do, when to do, and how to do. If you have a teacher, ask the teacher. If you don't have a teacher who is alive, then read Prabhupada's books. But otherwise, you have to have a teacher, an authority, who you ask for counsel, what to do, when to do, and how to do. These 3 questions. At what level am I now? What should I do? For example, you can approach your spiritual master and ask him, I'm studying at the university, should I go on studying at the university, or should I just collect some rags in the street and live in a cave? Yeah. And if the guru tells you, well, I think you should go to the cave, then you go to the cave. If you trust your teacher, you have to trust the teacher. It's like in school, you know. It's really like in school. In school, that's the problem in schools, you know, that the students or the pupils, they don't trust their teachers anymore. They think that, you know, they don't know things, and I've been teaching children, you know, for many years. And I've noticed that if you don't become an authority for the children, right, then it's difficult to teach them anything. They have to trust you. They really have to trust you. I had an experience that was really fantastic. I was writing on a blackboard, and that was puberty children, you know, and they're pretty heavy guys. So there was one boy all the way in the back, and he was yelling and screaming and making nonsense, you know. And I was just writing on the blackboard, and I turned around, and he threw a screw on me, you know, like this, you know. And it hit me in the forehead, but nothing happened. It just slipped away, and suddenly the whole class was silence. What could he do? You know, they were expecting my reaction, you know. And I didn't become angry. I told the boy, well, if you're not interested in what I'm saying here, if you don't trust me, you don't have to stay in the classroom. You can really go outside, and we will go on with our teaching, and other people, other students, they want to study, okay. And he just left the room. I said, just go. If you're bored, you don't like it, go. And 3 or 4 years later, I met him at a tram stop. And he came up to me and said, you know, that time when I threw something at you and you didn't become angry, I started to trust you. Because I knew that you are a person who doesn't take it personally, that you have been sort of like you control your anger, you know. And then he said, and from that point on, I started to trust school in general a little more. I became more like trusting the teachers, and like that. You know. But nowadays it's very difficult, you know, in schools, extremely difficult, because there are all these iPhones and all this, because all this knowledge that you get into your, I would call information overcharge. They're over-informed, you know. So the teachers have it very difficult. You know? But in general, what I mean to say is that you have to trust the teacher you have, the spiritual master you have, or you will accept. You have to trust. If you don't trust them, then you will jump to a level which you are not still ready to be on. You know? You have to go. Teachers are important. We have spiritual masters in our movement. It's not that we're giving them a cult, you know, that we're like, you know, fanatics again, you know. But they are teachers, which means that they can guide us. You know? For example, myself, I don't accept disciples. Why? Because I don't think that they can trust me in this. You know what I mean? I would really have to be more advanced to accept disciples. If they could really trust me, you know what I mean? I can teach in a school, that's no problem. Children is okay. But I'm not their spiritual master. I'm not their guide to the spiritual level. So it's something different. You know? But in general, trust is important. You know? You have to trust your spiritual master. You have to trust your authorities in the temple when you're living in the temple. I live at home. I live in the temple. You have to trust the authorities. If you don't trust them, it's bad. That's not good. Lack of trust. You understand?
I think so.
Is it right? You think so?
Probably I'm not.
Huh?
Probably I'm not understanding fully. But
What's the problem?
just thinking that if we're reading Prabhupada's books and also like listening to lectures, we tend to hear certain things again and again, and like if Prabhupada or other spiritual teachers teach us very strongly certain things, and then other people would read different things and they also the same thing, but they would understand different things. So is it that Srila Prabhupada speaks to you in this way, and if you trust this and you do, then it's fine with the guidance of your spiritual teacher or whoever? Or is it not really?
As I said, you have to trust somebody.
Mm.
You have to have faith in somebody. Never mind who. You have to have faith in somebody. But the problem is that we don't have faith in anybody.
Mm.
We doubt everyone. Maybe, well, and we call it in English faithless. You know, we are faithless people. That's a fact. You know? It's our nature. Mainly when we have money and we have position, then we're faithless because we have power. You know? But as soon as you don't have power, when you have when you're really downtrodden, you have nothing, then you start develop some faith in somebody. Children have faith naturally in their parents. Naturally. Whatever the children learn from their parents, if they have faith in their parents, but unfortunately there are situations where children don't have faith in their parents either. We're faithless, we're living in a faithless world with faithless people. It's a fact. It's lack of faith. Faith is something different than belief. Belief is you believe in God. You believe in God, it's okay, but do you have faith in God? That's another question. You understand what I mean? Faith and belief is two different things. Faith is something which is really strong. It holds you above the water, as we say. You have faith. We have to cultivate this faith in God, and not only the spiritual master, but in God. Faith is so important. We're living in a world which is very faithless. We believe so many things, but we don't have faith. That's a fact. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention, and continue in your Krishna consciousness, and please give me your blessings that I can also continue. Ich habe auch eine Pranayama für Prabhupada. Für Prabhupada Murti. Ich habe eine Pranayama.
Das hast du doch hier gefunden. Ja.
Prabhupada habe ich hier gefunden, ja. Der ist hier manifestiert. Hat sich manifestiert. Und jemanden vergessen, das war die richtige Definition.
Nein, er hat sich manifestiert.
Ja, ja. Danke.
Das ist schön. Du hast so eine souveräne Art, wie du das Krishna-Bewusstsein präsentierst. Eben nicht überzeugt, aber nicht dramatisch.
Ja.
Abgeklärt.
Ja.
Das ist schön.
Wann kommen die Yogis?
Das ist gut für uns Yogis, die machen ein bisschen in die Extreme gehen.
Wann kommen die
Weiß nicht, weil um 12.45 Uhr genau Strauchklasse.
Ah,
Also
ja.
spätestens hier sein.
Okay, dann gibt es Amerikaner hier etwas?
Ja. Bis.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.